there's a couple things I came across that aren't exactly right, but as far as the story that he's telling and the way that he feels like it may have went down, it's spot on to me. That's my opinion. What do you think? Have you seen it? Tell me what you think. There is a YouTube channel named Real Justice. If you aren't familiar with the channel, go check it out. He has a video series about the Kiely Rodni case, and his series is called Kiely Rodni, Call Me If You Get Lost, part whatever. I know he has over 65 parts in this series he has going on, and then he had like a little side series that's called Sammy, I Ammy, and this specific video I am going to talk about is part 65. Have you seen it? Let me know if you've already seen it before we start talking about it. It's part 4 in the Sammy, I Ammy series or mini series he has going on. This video, before I heard what the tow truck guy said with Squirrel Girl, this video made so much sense to me. I couldn't poke any holes in it. There's a couple things I came across that aren't exactly right, but as far as the story that he's telling and the way that he feels like it may have went down, it's spot on to me. That's my opinion. What do you think? Have you seen it? Tell me what you think. The first point in his video is, and his videos are read videos, you're gonna have to read them. I know. Anyway, the first point he makes is that he put an offer out to Samantha Smith, Sammy, he would give her all of his YouTube money and $5,000 if she would just take a lie detector test. No one can say Real Justice hasn't put his money where his mouth is, because I have. Then I offered Sammy 5,000 buckaroonies if she could pass a lie detector test. And Sammy didn't accept my offer. So, why wouldn't an 18-year-old girl just starting out, going off to college, take up an offer like this? I mean, we all know the answer to that, right? I mean, maybe a lawyer, her family, because her mom is a former lawyer. Her mom's a former lawyer, which doesn't mean she's retired or doesn't practice anymore. She's just not practicing right now. So maybe she was advised, it doesn't matter if you can pass that test or not. I'll give you $5,000 not to take it. So, but the way I understand it, her family has a lot of money, so maybe the $5,000 wasn't enough or wasn't big enough for her to be like, yeah, I'll do it. Or maybe she couldn't pass, right? Most likely she couldn't pass. Moving on. I'm gonna go right down through it. All right, so we know they were at this party, and we know Kiely Rodni can't drive after 11 p.m. legally. And we assumed, now we know different, that since Sammy is 18, she could drive legally. So what Real Justice is telling us is that Sammy was gonna be the driver that night. She was gonna drive Kiely's car wherever they were gonna go. Around 10:30 is when Jagger got the text from Kiely. So Real Justice thinks that Kiely was gonna go lay down in the back of her car, and before she went to sleep, she texted Jagger, and then she went to sleep in the back of her car. And then they're doing their party thing. Let me just keep going down my list because I'll skip something. All right, so he mentions that Kiely laid down in the back of her car at 10:30, and per everybody, Kiely was drunk. But per the autopsy, she wasn't, is what I'm gathering. And now I don't read autopsies, but that's what the majority of the people are saying. that the autopsy shows she was not drunk. Now, if that's wrong, let me know. Let me know. So she's not drunk. She lays down. They're at the party. Sammy wants to stay longer. Okay, now we're going to break away from the party. In his video, he shows Sammy heading up the teen meetings. She's like the leader of the teen team, and you can see her raise her arm up and kind of like stretch it out or whatever, and he's like, oh, look at Sammy stretching out her sore arm. And he goes on to say how she's like, we need to talk to you, we need your videos, we need your pictures. He's saying that because Sammy's collecting all this evidence. She doesn't want it out, right? She wants to collect it all. So there's some more footage of Sammy like hugging this guy, crying, and he's like, why is she crying if she didn't do anything wrong? Now, to me, like, if for real your friend's missing and you don't know why, and you just don't know what's going on, of course you may hug your friend and cry, even if you didn't do anything wrong. So I feel like he was a little off there. What are your thoughts on that? Because I could most definitely be wrong on that too. That's just my opinion. And oh yeah, and then he shows another scene. I believe it was the concert, the benefit concert they had, where all of the teens, her friends, are like all together lined up, and it's like, is she trying not to laugh, or is she trying not to cry? It's a little, I mean, to me, I know what I think. Tell me what you think. I don't know. Tell me what you think. And so that was a little weird. She's also bouncing her foot in that clip where it's like, is she trying not to cry? Is she trying not to laugh? What's going on? He brings another point up that wherever Sammy is in these first several days of looking for Kiely and doing the meetings and just being out in the public, searching for their friend, these three guys are always with Sammy or around Sammy, or pretty much wherever Sammy is, you can find these three guys. Stephen Ross Greenberger, Philip Farraco, or Farraco, and Evan Fite, or Feet. It's F-I-T-E. I'll put them all up so you can see them and know who they are. And these are the three guys that you continuously see around Sammy. And he gave lots of examples, and I'll show you a few. In the Tony Dodge interview that Sammy did, like one of the first interviews she did, you can see Steven in the background of her car window. And at one point, he walks up to the window. Real Justice suggests he knows that she's live. And you can see Sammy kind of look up at him in Tony Dodge's video. And then later on in the video, you see Steven like run up to Sammy's car, and you see her like lock eyes with him. You can't see him, but you know he's right there. And he like walks around the front of the car, and you can see her eyes like following him around the front of the car. And Real Justice suggests that he is like giving her hand signals. Now, when Sammy's talking about this, she mentions that there's the bull sticker on the back of her car, and she also mentions that the car has a sunroof. So I don't know if Steven was telling her, don't forget to tell him about the sunroof and the bull sticker, or I don't know. Again, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about that? Do you think he was trying to make sure she didn't say something or tell her to say something? But the first time he walked up to the window, she turned the conversation to him and Mags and was like, oh, Mags was there with her boyfriend Steven. She may have said Ross. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look. If you know, let me know.
Mags ended up leaving about 10 minutes into the party with her boyfriend Ross, Mags's boyfriend.
Another good point that Real Justice made was that Mags was only at the party for 10 minutes. She showed up with Kiely at 10:30. Right? Yeah. Yeah. She showed up with Kiely at 10:30, and they stayed for 10 minutes, and it was just too much, right? Too scary. Then she left. Like, how would Mags know if Kiely was drunk and a lot of people showed up that they didn't know, and there were drugs there that weren't normally at their parties? Like, 10 minutes and she knew all of this? That's a little strange to me. Your thoughts on that? And I am just I want to point some bullet points out of Real Justice's video, because you should just go watch his video or read his video. Sammy says it's overwhelming and hard to see. Was it hard to see like the person in front of you at the party, or was it hard to see when you were driving? And was it overwhelming because like we haven't gotten there yet? All right, so here is what Real Justice thinks happened. There's one more thing in his video I want to point out that I didn't agree with, because I just don't think it's right. And that is, he says that law enforcement had placed a marker over Kiely's car on August the 13th. Now we know Kiely was found on August the 21st. And so he like showed a picture and he circled the little marker thing over where Kiely's car was actually found. And so before watching Real Justice's video, that had been said before, and I looked into it, and I found that Tyler Feller actually called law enforcement and asked them about that picture.
Let me break down this picture. You guys see this picture that's on the screen. I'll try to make it just a little bit bigger for you guys. Okay. You guys can see this picture that's on the screen. And I saw this picture and, it was like, well, is this at Prosser Reservoir? What's going on in this picture? And so the first thing we sort of did was like, look at the tree line. All right, look at these trees. And then we were comparing this tree line to some of the tree lines that we see in the Prosser Reservoir pictures. And so I'm like, yeah, actually, when we look at it, it actually does look like it's at the Prosser Reservoir. And so when I called the guy on the air the other day and I told him about this, it was like, he immediately confirmed that they were helping out with this. You guys were here on the air. I called the guy from Alameda I called the Alameda Sheriff's Office, and he said, I'm going to give you the guy's cell phone number, who's our public information officer. And I was like, man, this is a big county. Like, I'm pretty sure Alameda County is pretty big county. I cannot believe they're just like handing out his cell phone number. There's literally 1.62 million people who live in that county. That's 4 times bigger than Placer County. And so it's an enormous county. And they're just going to give me the cell phone number of the guy. I was confused by that, but I was okay with it. Give me the cell phone number. Some of you guys remember I sent a voice memo. I was like, hey, my name's Tyler Feller. I'm covering the case of Kiely Rodni. I'm interested if you can point out Alameda County Sheriff's Office boat, literally just feet away from where Kiely Rodni was found. And then he started calling me while I was on the air. Some of you guys remember that. I ended up having a conversation with him. And I said, hey, I texted you this picture. You guys have something marked in the water, like very close to where her car is. Can you give me an update about what happened? And he said, oh, let me figure this out. I'll call you back. And so shortly after I got off air, he called me back. And he said, and this is the story that he told, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section what you think about it. The story that he gave back to me was this, that Alameda County essentially allowed a team of volunteer divers to use their boat in this search. So people keep saying Alameda County has this team of specialized divers. Well, this guy, the public information officer that we spoke with, he said he actually used to be like the sergeant or whatever in charge of the actual dive team. So he knows a lot about how their dive system works and all that. And that this was in particular a volunteer dive team. They were there and they had a chain of command, a group of people that they were reporting to and listening to. In particular, the chain of command gave them some very specific instructions while they were searching. His specific instructions were, number one, they were looking, don't know why, only for Kiely's cell phone. That's what they're doing. They're looking only for Kiely's cell phone. It blew my mind. I'm like, you mean they're going to search the lake that she was closest to in this party, and they're not searching for her vehicle? They're just searching for her cell phone? I had a hard time really processing and understanding that. And then the second thing that he said is that they had pretty explicit instructions that they were only supposed to go 25 feet out from the water, and that's it. So initially what they did was they swam out 25 feet, dropped that anchor, which is that yellow dot there, and then they just searched 25 feet out, and that's it. And so, unfortunately, all they did was searching for a cell phone because that was their explicit instructions that they were given. And they never actually found the phone, never went further than 25 feet because that was the instructions. Spent the whole day diving in that area and pretty much came up with nothing.
This is what Real Justice thinks happened. He thinks that at 12:30, Sammy and one of those 3 guys got into Kiely's car while Kiely was in the back sleeping. And that Sammy did not drive down the bumpy road AWP drove down, that Sammy drove down the shoreline, which is the way that AWP left. AWP got to the water by driving down that bumpy road with all the ruts, and when they left, they drove up the shoreline. So Real Justice is saying that Sammy and this guy got in the car, Sammy driving, and drove down the shoreline, and they were riding like the shoreline right by the water. And if you look at the picture that he made, you can see just driving straight, they're gonna run into water. And so you can see from the fire cam that the car's lights hits the other side of the reservoir. So they're going down the shoreline, they see the water. Sammy doesn't want to drive the car into the water, so she makes this huge sharp right turn, and you see the lights go around the reservoir, and it's just not enough, and the car gets in the water right then. Not where Kiely's car was found, but a little bit more up ways from where Kiely's car was found. Because when the car goes in the water, now I have not been able to see this, but Real Justice says in the fire cam video that you can see the brake lights on Kiely's car flash twice. I haven't been able to see it. If you can see it, please let me know. He says the first time the brake lights flash is because Sammy's trying to like stop the car. She's in the water and she's trying to stop the car, and that doesn't work. She's in the water already. And so the second time the brake lights flash, it's because Sammy's pushing on the brake light to push herself up out of that car. Now, the passenger window was down or halfway down, and there's a guy in the passenger seat. Now, I don't know how much these people weigh, but Real Justice assumes we're talking about 300 pounds here, give or take, okay? Between the both of them, and they're in the front seat. And the way AWP explained it is that the engine of the car is really heavy, and that's gonna pull the car forward, and the car's gonna flip like back over front, right? Like the engine's gonna pull it down and the back's gonna come over and it's gonna land upside down. Real Justice says that's not what happened, and I'm gonna try and illustrate this in a picture somehow. I hope I am able to do that. But that the car went in, you can see when the headlights are facing the Alder Hill camera. And so the way that the car went in, now they're in the water, and there's two people very much alive and aware of what's going on in the front seat of that car, and the window is down in the passenger seat, so they're trying to get out of the passenger side window, and they're heavy, and so the car's not flipping like this, it's flipping like this, because there's so much weight on the passenger side. And so dude gets out, Sammy gets out with her phone, and they're in shallow enough water that they're not over their heads, right? They just went in the water, and they could have been out of the car fairly quickly. Like, we know that the headlights didn't sink for a while. So Sammy says, she first says Kiely called her at 12:36 a.m. and she knew she was still at the party because she could hear people in the background. And she used the 12:36 a.m. time because she knew what time that car went in the water. And if she had talked to Kiely and heard people in the background at 12:36, there would be no way in hell Kiely's phone or car or her could be in the lake at 12:33 a.m. But the fire cam on Alder Hill proved that to not be correct, as we literally saw the vehicle go into the water and sink. And we know that Kiely's phone pinged right there last. Real Justice says that Sammy held her phone up over her head as she walked to shore. And had she just held on to the car, because we know how buoyancy works. You know, things are a lot lighter in water. And now, I'm not saying she can pick up a car. I don't even know if the car was like sliding down an embankment. I don't think she would be able to hold on to that either. We know that it wasn't a steep drop off. Real Justice believes that if Sammy would have just held on to the car while it was in shallow water, the car would have settled right there and not drifted with the current of the reservoir and made it end up where it actually ended up. And then the car would have landed in shallow water and Kiely could have been saved. But since they got out and made their way back to shore and watched the car disappear, Sammy tried to make that phone call to Kiely and she didn't answer. And she knew that Kiely didn't get out. And she knew that Kiely was in that lake, dead. And her using the 12:36 a.m. time pretty much would clear her. So, I've heard hearsay that someone said when Sammy got home, she was wet. That needs to be confirmed. I also feel like, well, first you have to know that everything I've said previous to this moment is just all alleged. It's all opinion, it's all guess, it's a theory. None of it has been proven, obviously. LE, law enforcement, has come out and said this was an accident. It is November the 9th and we haven't heard anything else from law enforcement, so are we going to hear anything else? I know people have shown documents where this is still an active case, so hopefully. Then, okay, so we have that theory, right? Did Sammy go home wet? I can come up with lots of questions that if they were answered, we would know so much more. But I'm gonna go on a different angle with this because there is another channel out there there's another channel out here in YouTube called You Back to Jeff. If you haven't ever heard of him, go check his channel out. I'll leave anybody I talk about, I will put them in the description so you can go check out the things that I'm saying. He has started a channel and he actually has hired a private investigator to investigate things happening in Truckee associated with the Kiely Rodni case. You can donate to that fund to pay the investigator if you would like at this link. It'll be in the description too. I think it's kind of cool that he is asking the crime YouTube community to come together and donate and fund this project, which is officially called Operation Truck Stop. You can use those hashtags Operation Truck Stop or Truck Stop, but I feel like what he is trying to do and what he is doing is quite amazing. Not to take away from the rest of the crime community, but to actually fund a PI to try and figure out what exactly is going on is kind of cool. If you want to donate to that cause, be sure to click the link. You can check out the progress, and he gives updates on things he's finding out through the PI. Oh my gosh, have you seen and heard all of the things that have come up regarding Kiely Rodni, AWP, the tow truck driver Nick, Jared Lysick? Ryan Upchurch. I have a whole list of things right here that we need to talk about, but it's just too much to talk about in one video. I would be here forever. What do you think about Real Justice's video? Kiely Rodni, Call Me If You Get Lost, part 65. Do you think that scenario makes sense? It really did to me until, and we'll go into that next time. So thanks for being here. I'll see you soon. Bye. Kiely Rodni, Call Me If You Get Lost. Isn't that what it is? And by former, he means she isn't currently at this moment practicing law. Practicing law. They got to, sorry, I want to, she called Kiely. No, first she said, she called Kiely that the car's lights hits the other side of the, he's saying that because they're trying to get out of the passenger seat. Damn, is that thunder? He also mentions, yeah, on the sticker, so he goes on to say, what happened? She also mentioned, yeah, you back to Jeff, is that his name? Oh, first, no, not former. Okay, here we go. No one, he also, let's see, he put in part 65, he doesn't, and then I offered Sammy, hold on, it's going too fast. Before we go in, no one can say, fuck, why didn't it pause? He put a plea out or an offer out, yeah. Let's mute that. Come down here to part 65. And let me get my notes back over here. I want to get straight to the points, and I'll talk about that in another video. What in the world is going on? Too much to even keep up with. I definitely am behind, but I want to go over some of the things because there's just so much, and if you don't get started, you're never going to catch up. I can't even catch up, and I started immediately. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is